In one of his interviews, Martin Scorsese was pretty blunt about superhero movies. He pointed out that no matter how much effort the actors and crew put in, to him, those films feel more like theme park rides than real cinema. He mentioned that he tried watching them, but couldn't find what he truly appreciates in movies. For Scorsese and his generation of filmmakers, cinema has always been an art form, a way to look deep into the human soul. The films were about characters, inner struggles, complex emotions, and spiritual revelations. The story wasn't just told. It revealed how people can cause pain, love, destroy themselves, and face their own essence. And now, in 2023, Scorsese releases Killers of the Flower Moon, a film that reminds us that true, deep, and meaningful cinema is still out there. It's his response to the blockbuster era, a quiet but powerful voice defending real art. In this video, we'll dive into one of the most talked about projects of recent years, Martin Scorsese's new film, Killers of the Flower Moon. We'll break down how Leonardo DiCaprio influenced the script, why the film turned out so long, who refused to finance it, and what this movie means for modern cinema. The idea to make Killers of the Flower Moon came to Scorsese in 2020, but when he faced the hefty budget, nearly $200 million, Paramount Pictures backed out. The risk of it flopping at the box office was just too high. However, Scorsese wasn't ready to give up on his vision. He started looking for new partners and negotiated with several industry giants: Netflix, Apple TV+, Universal, MGM. Eventually, Apple Original Films stepped in to support the project and co-produce the film. That decision turned out to be a smart one. Even if the movie doesn't make millions at the box office, it's already a key piece of content for Apple TV+, and over time, it will likely find its place among Scorsese's timeless works. Because this isn't just another drama. It's a film that speaks to us about the past, present, and future. Killers of the Flower Moon isn't just a big movie. It's truly epic. The runtime is 3 hours and 26 minutes, and people are already suggesting that maybe it's time to bring back intermissions in theaters. And you know what? There's something to that. Because this isn't just the longest film I've ever seen in a theater. It's one of those rare cases where not a single minute feels wasted. There's never a moment when you want to look away. Instead, you find yourself sinking deeper into the story, watching the main character slowly and inevitably transform, change under the pressure of what's happening, and make a difficult, painful choice for himself.
Expecting a miracle to make all this go away. You know they don't happen anymore.
Scorsese has always had a special connection to real-life events, and Killers of the Flower Moon is no exception. In fact, the true story behind the film is so incredible, so painfully real, that sometimes it feels like it just couldn't have happened. But it did. After oil was discovered on Osage lands, massive wealth suddenly ended up in the hands of the Native American tribe. People who had once lived in traditional homes were now millionaires.
Whose land is this, Henry? My land.
The film paints an almost surreal portrait of an Oklahoma town. On the streets, wealthy Osage couples in glamorous outfits cruising around in shiny cars, accompanied by their white servants in perfectly pressed uniforms.
They were sick people. They were kindly people, big-hearted people, but they're sickly. Money flows freely here now.
The air is thick with the fever of the gold rush, fights among oilmen over drilling rights, crowds of con men trying to scam the newly rich Osages, and a constant flow of white men eager to marry into Native American families. Because marrying an Osage woman meant one thing: lifelong financial security. This flipped social order, where the Native Americans are on top and the white people play the role of servants, looks almost like an upside-down dystopia. And it's into this strange, unstable world that Ernest Burkhart, the nephew of an influential landowner, arrives. A man with a half-smile hiding much more than it seems on the surface. Played by Leonardo DiCaprio, the character he creates is far from the typical hero. He's a man tangled in his own weakness, easily influenced, capable of terrible actions, but still with an inner struggle. Through his eyes, we dive into this dark story, a story of betrayal, greed, love, and the systematic destruction of an entire people. And perhaps it's exactly this slow-paced, expansive format that allows us to feel every ounce of it, from the first scene to the tragic finale. Ernest Burkhart is a complex and almost tragic figure. He's the nephew of the powerful rancher William Hale, a man who immediately sees the benefit in using his naive, weak-willed relative. Ernest isn't a villain in the traditional sense. He's more of a tool in someone else's hands, too weak to resist and too dumb to understand the full extent of his role. Interestingly, Ernest wasn't even supposed to be the central character originally. Leonardo DiCaprio was initially meant to play a lawman who comes to Oklahoma to investigate a series of mysterious murders. In fact, rumors say he even wanted to play Hale himself, the role that eventually went to Robert De Niro. But DiCaprio pushed for a change in the script, despite Martin Scorsese having worked on it for over 2 years. This decision completely shifted the film's focus. Now, the audience sees the tragedy of the Osage people not through the eyes of justice, but through the eyes of internal conflict, blind obedience, and moral decay.
Our war hero has arrived. Welcome home. You like women?
That's my weakness.
And I have to say, DiCaprio absolutely nailed it. He completely disappears into the role, limping, speaking with a slouch, constantly flashing that upside-down smile that feels unnatural. And when his character tries to charm Molly, the Native American woman he later marries, his crooked yellow teeth expose just how awkward and clumsy those attempts are.
I don't know what you said, but it must have been Indian for handsome devil.
This effect is thanks to the meticulous work of legendary makeup artist Vincent van Dyke, who created custom dental prosthetics for DiCaprio. Ernest is one of the dumbest characters DiCaprio has ever played, but that doesn't make him any less fascinating. He's both pathetic and terrifying, greedy, alcohol-dependent, not very bright, but also genuinely in love with Molly. He's torn between 3 forces: his loyalty to his uncle, his desire for easy money, and maybe his only real emotion, love. This inner turmoil makes him so real. Watching him struggle between Hale's commands and his wife's suffering is like watching a soul die in real time. In the role of the main antagonist in Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert De Niro shines as William Hale, the influential man known as the King in the area. His character is inspired by a real historical figure, a political boss who turned his humble beginnings into an empire built on blood and deceit. He profited off the wealth of the Osage people through bribery, fraud, and even outright murder. On screen, Hale embodies the perfect representation of evil, a man who hides his predatory nature behind a soft smile and fake concern. He pretends to be a friend to the native people, attending their ceremonies, saying kind words, but it's all part of a carefully constructed mask. In reality, Hale is a cold-blooded manipulator, willing to sacrifice even those closest to him if it brings him closer to power and oil. He skillfully pulls the strings, using his nephews, Ernest and Brian, as pawns in a deadly game for control over the riches.
Well, we mix these families together, and that estate money flows the right direction, it'll come to us. You got to take back control of your home.
On the other side of this tragedy is Molly Burkhart, played by Lily Gladstone. Her role is one of the strongest in the film. Molly isn't just a victim, she's a symbol of resistance. She represents a people who are being robbed of everything: wealth, dignity, and life. Her family is targeted by the greedy Hale, and Molly herself struggles to balance her cultural identity with the realities of a new America, where survival must be fought for. Another great addition is Jesse Plemons, who plays a federal agent, a role DiCaprio was originally supposed to play. While his role is less emotionally charged, his presence on screen brings a sense of grounded authority and the stereotypical federal coldness. Plemons fits perfectly into the atmosphere, restrained, attentive, and in his own way, very cinematic.
Sent down from Washington, D.C. to see about these murders.
See what about him?
See who's doing it.
This gallery of characters turns the film into not just a reconstruction of historical events, but a tragedy with almost Shakespearean scale, where good and evil are tightly intertwined in a knot of family ties, deception, and betrayal. I didn't start talking about this film by mentioning Martin Scorsese's view on superhero movies by accident, because Killers of the Flower Moon is almost an ideological opposite of what dominates the box office today. On one side, you have comic book universes built on fantasy, repetitive plots, stereotypical characters, fast food action, and an overload of CGI. Movies where everything repeats endlessly and where emotions are often replaced by visual noise. On the other side, you have a film based on real, though horrific, events, a living history, deep, complex characters, emotions filled with pain, doubt, and tragedy.
Why did you come here?
For my uncle.
Are you scared of him?
My brother? Who? No. No, he's the king of the Osage Hills.
This is cinema that doesn't pander to the audience, but instead demands engagement, focus, and empathy. Recently, Scorsese gave an interview to GQ, where he once again addressed the impact of comic book movies on the industry, and his words were troubling. The danger isn't in the films themselves, but in how they influence the perception of culture. A generation has grown up thinking that this is what real cinema is. According to Scorsese, in this situation, the answer should come from the ground up, from the creators themselves, not from studios and marketers, but from those who still believe in the power of true art. He mentioned filmmakers like the Safdie brothers and Christopher Nolan as examples of those who are still capable of challenging a system where money and algorithms have long dictated what a successful film should be. Killers of the Flower Moon is that kind of challenge. A film that reminds us, cinema can be more than just a product. If, like me, you share Martin Scorsese's views on modern cinema and appreciate deep, auteur-driven stories, give this video a like and subscribe. That way, you'll help YouTube's algorithms understand that this kind of content really interests you and, in turn, support the growth of the channel. Make sure to leave a comment with your thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon and other Scorsese films. Thanks for watching. See you in the next breakdowns.